Call order. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, sir.
Ms. Ryan? Present. Mr. Redmond?
Here.
Mr. Francis, absent. Ms. Kane? Here. Mayor Mellon?
Here.
As per requirement of Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, notice is hereby given that this is a special meeting of the Borough of Highlands, Mayor and Council, and all requirements have been met. Notice has been transmitted to the Acton Park Press and the 2 River Times. Notice has been posted on the public bulletin board. Our first item on the agenda, actually our only.
I was going to ask if there's another one.
Is the on-first introduction and setting of a public hearing date for August 21st is ordinance 0-13-16, an ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 21 of the revised general code of the Borough of Highlands entitled zoning, to modify the requirements of the MH mobile home resident district, and to further allow high-rise multi-family development in the MH zone as a conditional use, and to establish regulations pertaining thereto.
I'll speak to this first. We've been meeting for about 26 weeks on Fridays, myself, the borough administrator, and different council people, trying to come up with ideas to draw in more ratables. We have about a 3-year window with the state after Sandy of loan money that they put out to us. The loan money was intended to bridge the gap of the loss of ratables that we're looking at. We have about a 27% projected loss after 3 years. Steve Pfeffer, who unfortunately couldn't make it tonight, has said to us as Borough Council that we probably have a 10-year impact economically from the storm. We're very happy that the 90% went up to what the state's covering. I think at the end we're going to get most of it covered fully with the loans and certain towns, which I think we're going to be one of them. That shows that it had a little more hit than any other town. We had countless one-on-one meetings with each other, trying to wrap our heads around what to do. We had a meeting in this room with our combined zoning, planning, and council and talked about things like this. This happens to be the first one. This is not the last one. With that being said, I spoke myself and Rebecca, came up with the idea of this and talked one-on-one to the other council members. And here we are tonight. Now, Carolyn, to be clear, if we vote on it tonight, all we're voting for is to send it to the planning board?
It's introduction and it would be referred to the planning board.
Which, at what meeting?
The second Thursday of August.
Okay, what day is that? Okay.
And then we'll come back to the council for public hearing.
And our already regularly scheduled meeting in August.
There would be comments, presumably from the planning board, that you would have to take action based on.
Right, and weigh in on it or agree or disagree.
Right.
So the change in the ordinance that currently exists is a height change and a density change. At any point during the process of this, we're going to have at least one more meeting at the council table and at least one meeting at the planning board. They may go over 2 meetings. And whatever they decide or whatever they weigh in on, we'll take into consideration also. Anybody else want to speak? Anybody else want to speak?
No, I'm fine with moving it to the planning board for their consideration.
Because that's all we're doing.
Right, and once we get their thoughts and their input. then
I didn't want to offer
we'll
that.
make a decision.
No, it's fine, and I feel the same way. You know, I've gone over this, and I want the planning board to see it, and we'll discuss it, and then we'll come back, and we'll come back.
Correct. And there'll be at least then 2 more public meetings.
Right.
Because you're allowed, everyone's allowed to go to the planning board meeting too, obviously.
So I'm willing to vote on this, yes, to moving forward to vote.
I will add one more thing, and I should have said in my opening comments. We had our meeting last night of the strategic long-term planning, which we had myself and Rebecca are going to co-chair. And part of the things that they've done in other towns is things like this. Many other things too. There will be, I would say, like 6 to 8 public meetings we said on that commission. And that's going to be people coming up with what we think is our top 6 things we should do in the town for long-term recovery, both economic, housing, and everything else. So this is part of an overall whole plan. Sorry. Kevin, do you want to weigh in?
I think that if we do whatever we have to do, the trailer park would help bring in more revenue for the town, more people that we need for the town. So if things work out, I think it would only help the town.
Currently, the way it is right now, folks, you don't get an improvement tax per se on a property that doesn't have an improvement, because the trailers are what they consider motor vehicles, so they have titles, not deeds like homes do. So right now, for roughly 14 acres on the hill, we're getting about 85 to 88,000, depending on which year or which appeal goes through. Clearly, if there's an improvement up there within what we're talking about here, I believe we get more than that for the town. Everybody got that? Okay, I'll offer it.
Offered by Mayor Nolan,
I'll second it.
second by Ms. Kane. Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Mr. Francis is absent. Ms. Kane?
Yes.
Mayor Nolan?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Did we have a payment of bills too? I saw we were talking about that today, no? Okay.
Moving on to public portion.
Made that assistant.
Fired. Thanks.
Kim Scarlett.
I want to sign
Happy
it.
sign.
I want to sign it.
I'll follow you, Mr. Manager, I promise you.
Kim Stork at 315 Short Drive. I'll keep saying it in every meeting that you have about this. I can't for the life of me understand why you think putting an 8-story structure on that hill that has a propensity to fall down is a good idea. Engineering might be different these days, but back 20, 30 years ago when they built my townhouses, they thought it was a great idea to put buildings at the bottom of the hill, and we see it was a bad idea. I don't know what you're going to do to stabilize that hill and put 8 stories on there. It's mind-boggling.
Thank you, Kim. John and Melissa?
I'm sorry, I would actually like to hear first the answer to his question.
Well, I think that's all going to be sorted out with engineering at the planning board if it gets approved and someone comes with a site plan. The last time that this was discussed and it was 180-foot buildings, the argument was made, and I'm not, taking a side, it passed at the planning board, was that the removal of the dirt and rock and would be higher weight than the building back in, and the building would stabilize it being deep into the hill. Now, the difference between that and this ordinance that we currently have, which the proposed changes do not change it, we asked for a setback of a lot greater distance than that the ordinance of 5 or 6 years ago, whatever it was. It's actually 4 times the setback from the ridge line. So with that in mind, there will be, I'm sure, if this is approved and gets passed and somebody comes with a site plan, I would expect, just like the last one, to be a year-long process, and that, I'm not good or bad, just reality, with all the people weighing in pro and con scientifically. So I think a lot of those answers you might get at those meetings.
So my,
But go ahead, sorry.
So my question is, what is the impact on the infrastructure, and what is the cost benefit of the additional tax income versus the cost impact that we're going to have to pay out as a result of additional infrastructure, additional schooling, et cetera, that many people will then add to the community. So what's the number of people that projected, would be an increase? And then what is the cost benefit versus the cost expenditure?
An average improvement, we don't have a site plan in front of us, but by looking at the scope of the proposed ordinance, from our tax assessor, I'm told 2.7, 2.9 million increase in rate.
So what are we actually going to have to spend to then allow for the additional infrastructure impact?
Typically, any site plan would, and then it's hypothetical because we don't have one here, but in the past, when we've had bigger projects in this town and many other towns that I've seen, there's a study done, and whoever the person is developing is responsible over and above to pay for some environmental and infrastructure impacts.
Some, who's going to cover the rest of it?
Well, I say some because I don't know what the percentages are going to be, but that would be decided at the planning board with the developers agreement with the town.
That's
Pauline Jennings?
27 Brown Street. Have you had a plan proposal or an application put in on the current site with the current ordinance that you have in place?
Since we adopted it right before Sandy?
Yes.
No. But we also haven't had any planning board meetings because no one's planning anything.
Have you had any approach by any builder or construction company to build on that site?
We have,
When improved your current suggested improvements to the ordinance?
no, what we've had, and myself and Ms. Ryan, most of the Fridays, sometimes Mr. Francie too, depending on schedules, is we've had since, say March, a continuous parade of people coming in, looking at, quite frankly, like the businesses of Tab House, Bayonne and Trottery that aren't back yet and may not come back, and do some kind of joint venture there to help bring them back and build residential, a little higher quality above what's there right now. So to say that we've had people come in with proposals is mind-boggling how many.
So why would 2 extra stories make any difference to your overall plan for the town?
We believe we can maximize the town's take by doing this, and this is just the first one looking at.
Have you got people lined up looking for accommodation in
Since we did the
condominiums?
Since we did the tax abatement and the ordinance, Sandy did, so nobody was building anything. Since the spring of this year, thank God, we've had people come in on almost every single available tract of land in town.
Yes, but not to build an 8-story above ground high-rise.
We actually have, people have asked that on Bay Avenue, and we've said no.
Or more.
Yes, we've had people that wanted to do joint ventures of hotels and building garages for parking, 15-story.
But not on shadow lawn property.
I've had no developer come to me and ask to do that.
All right, that's what I needed to hear.
Okay.
So why are you concentrating on putting in an improved ordinance, on an ordinance that's perfectly adequate for the site, that was approved by the community at large?
So was the last one.
Why are you pushing the envelope to go higher?
Because we believe we can draw more, just like you said, nobody's come yet. We believe we can draw more attention and get more money for the town.
Because
As a whole.
you have 2 extra stories
And,
that
well,
will draw more people.
If it's not, then we might as well do it.
What do you mean if it's not?
Well, you're saying it's only 2 extra stories, like it's nothing.
I don't
No,
believe it is.
I'm not
Okay.
saying it's not.
I didn't say it.
If that was the impression I gave,
Okay,
I did not mean to imply that.
no problem.
What I am saying is, you have a perfectly good ordinance there for the moment. Why do you need to improve it?
Because we believe we do as a group.
Because what?
We as a group believe we do.
You need 2 extra stories.
Correct. And we're looking at other areas too to do stuff with density and use.
What population do you think will eventually inhabit that building?
I have no way to know that because we don't have a site plan in front of us.
It's not a case in this town, if you build it, they will come.
Okay, if that's what you believe.
I think you're totally misguided in
Okay.
your notion of, and I stress notion, of rentals.
Okay.
The residents that you are currently receiving rentals for are not people who are going to live in a high-rise building up there.
Okay.
This is not an area that people will come to live in because they're going to live in a high-rise building overlooking what down below? Nothing?
Okay.
Surely you need to concentrate on improving your down below site.
We're doing that too.
Well, maybe we should take it in baby steps.
We don't really have time for baby steps, Ms. Jennings. We have a projected loss of 27% of our retailers in 3 years.
I understand that.
So we can't wait for 3 years for that to happen.
The retailers that you've lost are not going to move up into
27% or we have now are not coming back,
I understand that.
no matter what.
I understand that.
So
But
we're making contingency plans.
I understand, but possibly your contingency plans could, the same as the rest of us do when we're up against the wall. We make cuts. We don't go out and spend more. We make cuts. And if a company comes in to build up there, what sort of tax break do they get to build?
Well, we put a 5-year tax abatement in place
Exactly.
a year ago
Exactly.
for any improvement over X amount of dollars.
Exactly.
But here's the nice thing about
For
it.
the 5 years, for the current residents, for the 5 years, they watch and suffer all the aggravation of building going on up there.
It's actually not true.
I don't
1
get
year,
an abatement.
That's actually not true. 1 year is 0, the second year is 20% of the
Oh,
improvement.
big deal.
The 20% of the improvement will
They
be
get
10
a
times what we're
free
getting now.
ride. They get a free ride to come in and build on an unstable
If you
bed.
believe that, that's,
I do believe it. And not only that, where have you all been? Have you not been looking at the landslides all the way down the hill between here and Atlantic Highlands? You haven't opened the path down there, but you want to build up there? I mean, come on. This just doesn't make sense.
all we're doing right now is unanimously agreeing to send it to the planning board and seeing what they say.
I don't get it, Mayor Nolan. I don't get it.
Mr. Mandra?
Well, you say you haven't got a building, well, I hear the rumors.
Mr. Mandra, you hear rumors every day about it.
One person wanting to buy it, and when you put down 8 more stories, you know damn well you have a person who wants to come in and build a 10.
Okay.
And we can't hold it on that hill. And you just want to damage it up. So you just didn't care. You don't give a damn about the people living down below.
We all care, Mr.
Oh,
Mandra.
yeah, you care. Well,
It's
let's take downtown and make it high rises right along the river. Take all the waterfront property and make it high rise.
No one's talking
Take
about that.
Gravelly's Point. Make
We're
it
not
a high
talking about
rise
that right
project. Zone it all.
Right now, we're just talking about
We
this
know where it's
particular
coming
property.
from. And we know these meetings have been had, and we know you talked to a builder.
I personally have not talked to any builder.
Yeah.
I've talked to a dozen or so on other
parts
parts of town.
town.
Sorry?
You don't worry about the people down below. What
We didn't
about the
worry, we
fruits
wouldn't be
that's
doing
coming
this.
out of the hill? You're not worried about that either. And the slides that came in the last few weeks, you don't worry about them.
Sorry that you feel that way,
Yeah.
but we do care.
Yeah, you care, all right? You don't give a damn about the county if there's anybody else up there.
Sorry you
You
feel
know,
that way.
when you have a surprise meeting like this,
It's real not a surprise. We haven't been there since last week.
Where's
Where
the
was
public?
it publicized?
Carolyn?
Where was
It
it
wasn't
publicized?
electronically transmitted to the Asbury Park Press and the Two River Times 48 hours prior to this meeting.
48 hours
48
prior.
hour meetings.
On
Got
a
the
holiday
Walkers.
weekend.
I know people
Only
don't know about
required
it
to
on
transmit,
Monday.
not
And the
publish.
day before a holiday,
Bruce?
I mean, talk about sneaky.
We met 3 days before Christmas too. It's just,
But that's
that's
not
what
really
has to
fair to
happen
call it
now.
sneaky. This can't be adopted for at least 2 more public
Not the
meetings.
point,
8 weeks.
The night before a holiday, and look at the handful of people that show up.
Most of the
I
time, it's the same
accidentally
people at
stopped.
every meeting.
How many people have
It's
you
the
seen at
same
every
meeting
council
here.
meeting?
Every one of you guys are the same.
Well, every one of yous up there didn't know about it Monday night, this meeting.
Sure, we
If
did.
you're
We have the
sure
back
I
on
know
there.
about the meeting Monday night.
We gotta tell me.
You were standing sitting right next to me.
I was
Tell me
sitting right
about it.
next to you, you didn't say there was a meeting
Well,
on
you were
Wednesday
talking to
night.
me about it working.
For the record, we got our packets on Friday. Please, everybody knew.
Yeah,
Paula.
everybody knew.
I didn't sign it. I
No, but
just,
neither this man, right? So,
Okay.
it's okay.
for the Highlands Business Partnership. I just want to say that many of you have met Rick Horn, a gentleman that the HVP retained after Hurricane Sandy for economic development purposes. And he has met with the mayor and council, certain members
By the way, he's in those Friday meetings too.
of the mayor and council every Friday because we cannot sustain Highlands any longer after the hurricane. And he's been working on a lot of projects, I wouldn't say a lot, but quite a few, and, you know, we have record of it because he has to give a report to the board. You know, developers that have come in and expressed interest in our community. We've discussed a number of projects. We just finished applying for the DBIZ application. The town's making a substantial investment in fixing the infrastructure downtown so that we can bring in new development on Bay Avenue. We need a transit village so that, there's incentives for developers around the ferry. We have a ferry terminal. We don't take advantage of that. There are a lot of state incentives that we could be taking advantage of. So I just think that, we need to start taking advantage of all of these incentives. And part of the way you do that is planning post-Sandy and looking at all the properties in town. And the planning board will decide, but I really don't think, we have much of a choice. Even the businesses can't sustain here anymore. We're not even open yet. A lot of people we can't do it anymore. We really need to, think about all available parcels in Highlands. We're a half a square mile.
Carla?
Thank
Mr. Hawley?
I just came in, I heard the study talk. I just want to say, all these people up here, the elected officials, they've been working like crazy to get this town back in shape. I don't think it's fair that people are coming down here. I think the last meeting, the lady was complaining about music coming from a restaurant. I think that would be wrong with this because the town takes the priority of it. And if everybody works together, it won't matter. If you call anytime during the night, they'll call. And it's, I have to give them all credit because they are working really hard and trying to do something for the town. And I think music coming from a restaurant is not a priority. I think right now the priority should be rebuilding the town the way it was, or close or similar.
And if you look, thank you, Mr. Hall. If you look at, we've been doing a lot of work with the Historical Society lately. I know that I've heard Carla writing about it, and I've seen a lot of people talking about it. They've actually, I don't want to say reemerged, but let's say been reinvigorated and have a lot more people in the Historical Society since Sandy hit. And if you look at the times when the economy, regardless of what was going on around or outside of the town, we had hotels, we had more business, we had more of a population, and we had the money to do things, which we don't have right now. So, with that, I will offer to send it to the planning board on the July 11th meeting.
Offered by Mayor Nolan,
I'll second it.
second by Mr. Redmond. Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Ms. Kane? Yes. Mayor Nolan?
Yes.
Motion
Okay.
carries.
Thanks for coming on. Motion to adjourn. Becky, second.
Offered by Mr.
Me.
Mayor Nolan, second by Ms. Ryan. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned, 8:22.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Public word. You'll put it up I will go to
Right, morning.